We're talking about the celebration of Ascension class. Actually, this Ascension's been going on since probably about the mid-90s. Yeah, about the mid-90s, when stuff has started going up here. This has been going on for a while. Someone was recognized and someone didn't. I didn't recognize it being an Ascension class or Ascension we were going through until probably about the last 10 or 15 years. But I knew something was happening, but it was totally different. In the mid-90s, it seems like you couldn't get anybody to go anywhere. I mean, energy, I was putting a tremendous amount of energy and people get very little return from it back. So anyway, we're going to go ahead. We're going to do a special thing today. We're going to give you some gifts today. How does that sound? We're going to give you also a feeling of a workshop involved where you're going to get to experience what being 100% in spirituality is about, okay? A lot of people haven't experienced it. If they've experienced it, they'll experience it for a short period of time. So, and the other thing we're going to do is we're going to take you to oneness. Oneness is an extremely powerful place to work on. I've been living in on my spirituality of 100%, 24/7, probably for several years. I've been living in oneness with that too. And the power of spiritual oneness, what you are is you're living in the world. See, when you're not in oneness, you're in ego, mind, and emotions. Ego, mind, and emotions, you're in survival. Ego is about survival. How are you going to survive over others? Ego, mind is about creating ways to survive. And the last one is emotions. Anger, mad, fear, whatever the emotion is, that gives you the drive. So ego, mind, and emotions, that's about survival. And the spirituality of oneness and living in spirit 100%, it's about living. Either living or you're surviving. I hate to say it, when you look around your people around you, you hear the way they talk, most people are trying to survive. And living in the land of living is a whole different way of doing it. That's what John and I have got together to share this with other people. Open it up to reality. You can get out of survival and get into the land of living, which is a whole different way to be that. So let's go and we'll get started with the presentation. It was about the mid-90s. I had a lady come into me in early 40s. I see a lot of people over the years. 48 years of practice, and you do see a lot of people, right? But anyways, one lady, she had a problem. I worked with her and got the issue taken care of, and she was doing very much better. I started walking over my desk to type my notes up. She turned around when I'm walking away, says, "What is my purpose in life?" I hate to admit, that's a big responsibility to put on somebody, all right? I stopped in my tracks. I couldn't believe she asked that question to me. I couldn't believe the responsibility involved with even answering that question. So I turned back around to her. I was getting angry. Really, I was going to tell her to give a piece of my mind. I turned around, I went to speak, and what came out? Raise your energy. When you raise your energy, you raise your consciousness. When you raise your consciousness, you raise your spirituality. When you raise your spirituality, your gifts start coming out. And all of us have special gifts. And the gifts will take you to your purpose. Well, she thanked me very much for that. I walked over to my desk and instead of typing my notes, I got a sheet of paper. I wrote all this down. That voice that spoke out of me was not me. It was spirit. And I fear it. Some people call it God, spirit, light. I like using the word spirit if you don't mind. Okay? When I say that, you can interpret what you want to in that process. So anyway, I wrote that down. And I've been using that ever since that time, mid-90s. What about for myself? I've been using it for myself. So I found out when you raise energy, that's why I've done in the energy work. I got into energy work in 1978, and 82 went to mainland China on U.S. Scientific China. Whoops, I'm getting a drink of water here. On the U.S.-China Scientific Exchange back in 1982. I got to train with 8 masters over there, and I was teaching them too. It was both the training process. So energy's been something really important to me. I got involved with chiropractic. Why? Because I thought nerves caused most of the problems. After practicing a couple of years, I came to realize what comes before nerves is energy. Everything's about energy. Everything. I can't think of anything that doesn't exist without energy. So that's number one thing got me going and activating me in a more stronger direction. Second thing, how about anybody know anything about crystal children? Don't you guys know much about crystal children? Yeah, okay. Well, in the 80s, I had a lot of ladies who were not be able to get pregnant and wanting to start their families. So I did some alternative work and energy work, and all these ladies started getting pregnant, which was real good. They were happy families they were starting. Back in the 80s, children would come in, and out of this process of working with these ladies, I ended up getting my practice being 46%. 26% is pediatric, 25% was geriatric, and everything else was between that. But then you had the indigo children were coming back in the 80s, all right? Indigo children have multiple auras. They had a lot of problems with in reference to ADHD and ADD. What happened with them is they were having problems taking information, visual, auditory, kinesthetic, getting in their brain. That's where they have learning problems. So I learned how to work with those issues out there back there. It's quite a learning experience to adapt. But all of a sudden, about in the mid-90s, we started having these kids come in who were very unusual kids. The first couple of ones I treated actually were hospice. They were hospice kids. They were only predicted only living a couple of days. Some of the parents I had, people who treated me, asked me to work on them. And these hospice kids, at that time, I didn't know they were crystal children. I did find out later on they were crystal children. These kids are crystal children. The reason why I call them crystal children is they have a white aura, they don't have a multicolor aura. They have a very bright aura in the process. Amazing thing when I found out about these crystal children. You know, we're supposed to have 12 chakras, you know, will centers and notochords. And these kids were coming in with 22 chakras already turned on. Wow. I thought, who are these kids? You know, this is a wholly different group of people. So that was 22 chakras. The will centers are back to the chakras. They were all turned on too. Notochords or energy go between a chakra and the will center, and also from chakra to chakra. Okay, they're about the size of your thumb. That's how big those are. Notochords are, and also they have auras, but their auras were not 12 auras. They were 22. So I thought, what in the heck is this? You know, whole different group of kids. Well, guess what? I ended up taking care of 6 hospice kids, and they all, within a day or two, were out of the hospital and getting released to their family. You know what? It wasn't anything I did. These kids, when I found out, their energies were all distorted. Now, you have to understand, when somebody comes in, they're operating on 12 chakras, will centers, and notochord. They're also operating on 12 levels of consciousness, 22 levels of spirituality, and they're also working on 42 dimensions, not a 3-dimensional or 4 if you count we. You know, if you count us right now, the time you put 4 dimensions there. These kids were really distorted. They came from a higher level of being to a lower level of being. So basically what I did is I started resetting their energy. I only had to set part of their energy, and after I got, then what happened, it would turn on and reset itself at that time period. So these kids were become great teachers to me. First of all, I wondered, who the heck are they? They're coming in the mid-90s, these crystal children, and I think a lot of people still don't understand. I mean, notice we didn't have every hand come up around here. These crystal children will be the teachers of us in the future. That's what they're coming in for, to change this world we have. They're extremely intelligent. The parents would tell me how intelligent they are, not because they're my kids. They're just extremely intelligent kids. If you know any of these crystal children, which my son and my daughter decided to have children, so right away I called in crystal children. So I got 2 of them. A very special gift. My little daughter's heart, granddaughter's heart. But anyway, they're have been quite a light to me, quite a teacher to me in the process. Okay. Well, and like I said, these are very unusual. They're manifesting. I think this is when the Ascension started manifesting around this time period that we're talking about. Is the beginning process, all right? And these kids, little kids, are teachers. Matter of fact, if you get involved with these kids, they're amazing. What you just sit and talk and have a conversation and see what they say back to you. They're pretty amazing kids. All special gifts they have. All of them are not only teachers, but they have ability. If you notice when with kids playing, they are natural leaders. So these crystal children, even kids older, will follow these kids around. So when they direct them, it's amazing to see what happens to them. Let's go, we're going to go over here. So I spent about 5 years in the Ascension process. I was put to a test. I didn't know it was a test at the time, but I have a lovely son and daughter and a wife. When I started having dreams about my family being taken away from me in a car accident, that went on for About 2 months. You know, I got angry, I got mad, I got rageful. You know, why would you do this? Take this away from me. This is my life. You know, why? You give me a life, take it and take it away. And that reality I came to, I finally, after all this working through in 2 months, I came to reality, no matter what I have, I can't do it. I have to go back to spirit. I couldn't be my old self. I have to be a new self where I'm going right now. As soon as that happened, everything stopped. It was like a test. How committed am I to do my spiritual work? How committed am I to be a spiritual person? So that was a big process that took place at that time. Understanding my spiritual gifts is what came about. Remember, I raised my energy, raised my consciousness, raised my spirituality. My gifts started coming out. I have ability to work with gifts with energy with people. I've been doing that for a long time. But I've also developed the ability to work with groups, people with energy. And I'll be expressing my gifts a little later on, and you'll see those gifts. But you know what? Every one of you have special gifts. My gifts are no more important than yours. It's very important for you to do this process, raise your energy, raise your consciousness, raise your spirituality. As your gifts start coming out, using your gifts will take your purpose. If gifts come out and you don't use them, that's going to do nothing. You have to start using those gifts. That's your work you have to do in that. And that will take your purpose. What is this about oneness? I told you living in spirituality of 100% and being in oneness, 24/7. Oneness is love. You know, I read a psychological journal I read a lot of research journals. I usually research journals, 90% of them, and 10% I read are medical. Why do I do that? Research journals are 15 years ahead of medicine. So I always want to be in the cutting edge. Always reading there. There's a research journal came out last month. It was a psychological research journal, and it said, 90% of people don't love themselves. 90% of people don't love themselves. Wow. That's extremely powerful. I found that in my practice quite often, too, with people. So we got to go to love, learning how to love ourselves, love others, and others love us, receive it, and us loving God, and receiving love of God, too. Light energy love. When you do that, you go to feeling joy. Joy is a simple act of you being your true spiritual self, who you're meant to be, who you're made to be. Then you go to peace. Peace is just peace with yourself, to everybody yourself, doing what you're supposed to be doing. Then there's what's called interconnection. You interconnect yourself, you interconnect others, interconnect to light, spirit, light, joy, interconnect to your being that you are. Then you go to a state of oneness. Oneness is about being one yourself, one with others, others with you, one with the world you live in, one with spirit with you, but also one with the planet we live on, and the animals and everything else that live on this planet. And also one with the planet, solar system we're on, but also one with the universe we live on. And so one with also all the universes out there. We are all interconnected. What we do in this universe, in this time and place, it has effect on others. So it's infinite energy was oneness. So that's why I started working with it. I only have so much energy I can give to one person. They only have so much energy. But when I go working in oneness with people, it's unlimited energy. I can accomplish things I could not do with myself. So learning to work on that was very important. Connecting me to source. There's a part of oneness that we have to come to a point, which I call nothingness. Okay? Truly, when you become nothing, you connect to the whole and become something. But in reality, truly when you think ego takes over, ego, mind, emotion. Look at me, I exist. When you do that, you disconnect from everything else. Okay? So it's about how to become connectedness is to become nothingness. Accept your nothingness. Sacred. And when you do that, you connect to everything. You become something by not connecting. Okay? But by connecting to you, you separate from all.